Today we'll be covering lesson 1, the physical geography of Australia and New Zealand. As you can see here on the map, do we consider Australia as an island? Do you consider Australia as an island?
No.
Okay,
Why not?
I'm asking, why do we not consider Australia as an island? Although it's very isolated, why do we don't consider Australia as an island?
Is it
Because
for
it's to be an island.
Who's going to answer best so we can discuss together? Mihad, go ahead.
Because it's too big to be an island.
Maybe because it's too big to be an island, but it is considered, what do we consider Australia? Uta, you were saying something?
a continent?
A continent. It is actually the smallest continent in the world. Although it's very isolated and it has water all around it, but we consider Australia the smallest continent in the world. Okay, so it's false. Australia is it's not it's the world's smallest continent, but it's not an island. Okay, طيب. How might being a very surrounded by water has affected life in Australia and New Zealand? Just try to guess. How might life be affected, or the physical geography of Australia has affected how people live in this place? Adam Sadat.
Maybe that they rely on fishing as one of their main economic activities.
Maybe they rely on fishing as their main economic activity. Yes, it's one possible answer. Who can tell me more? What do you think people living there? Just try to guess. How might Australia kind of life be affected by being considered or being surrounded by water?
Maybe any near earthquake will make it will make tsunamis and floods happen more often.
Maybe. What do you think of people? Do you think they are affected by other cultures or they are isolated? Mihad?
They are isolated.
Yes, I guess because they are surrounded all around with water. Even New Zealand here, as you can see on the map, New Zealand is consisting of two different islands. So they are a little bit isolated. What about the animals and the plant life there? What do you think of the animals and the plant life there? I want other people, guys. Bomika. Bomika? That's why I haven't sent the attendance yet, because if you're not participating, I will consider you absent. Okay, Hannah Yasser,
Yes, miss.
what do you think of plant life there? Just try to guess. We're not taking facts.
All the plants, like most of the plants, like they depend on what they're water dependent, and they they adapt more in Australia. Like if I take like the plant and put it like somewhere else, it won't adapt, because like Australia's temperature is like humid, mostly humid and rainy, because like it's surrounded by water all around.
Thank you, Hannah, very much. Let's move back to our lesson, to the beginning of our lesson today. Australia has a nickname. Who can tell me the nickname of Australia? What's the nickname of Australia, Dubolina?
The land down under.
Thank you very much. It's called the land down under. Why? Why do we call Australia the land down under? Farah Hashim. Why do we call Australia the land down under?
Yes, Miss Sally.
Why do we call Australia the land down under? I'm just working on the first paragraph of our textbook.
Because it's located
Yes.
It's located south
Or
south or under the equator.
thank you very much. We call Australia the land down under because it's located south or under the equator. On a map of Australia, it looks like a large island, but actually it's not attached to any other land masses. And we said that New Zealand is made of two islands. Okay, let's move back to Australia's landform. Australia is divided into three main parts. Australia is divided into three main parts. Who can tell me the three main parts or regions of Australia? Farah Mahlab? Farah Mahlab, tell me the three main regions of Australia. Farah Mahlab, you're here?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, can you tell me?
The
Yes, go ahead.
the Western Plateau, the Central Lowlands, and the Eastern Highlands.
Thank you very much, ya Farah. Yes, actually, Australia is divided into three main regions: Western Plateau, Central Lowlands, and the Eastern Highlands. Who can start with the first part? Ahmed Uta. Who can describe the first part?
Miss, can you say the question?
Who
What
can
was the
describe the first region, the Western Plateau? Choose any region and start by describing it. We said that
okay.
the main geographic regions are divided in the Western Plateau, Central Lowlands, and the Eastern Highlands. Let's start by describing the Western Plateau. Uta?
Western Plateau.
Yes, go ahead. Can you describe the nature of the land there and also the climate if it's found?
The Western Plateau makes half of Australia and it's rocky with a few water resources.
Yes. The Western Plateau actually is very rocky and dry, and actually it's with a little water sources. Let's move to the Eastern Highland. First, let's move to the Central Lowlands. Who can tell me about the nature of the Central Lowlands? Wamika?
Miss, can you say the question again, please?
Who can tell me about the nature of the Central Lowlands?
The lowlands, they are flat
Yes.
and very it's not
They're flat and they are rugged. They're flat and they are very rugged. What about the Eastern Highland? The Eastern Highland, Hannah Hani?
It have a variety of high and low areas. It have
Yes.
forests and farmlands.
Thank you very much. Okay. So at the beginning, we were talking about when we said that the geographers divide Australia into three main geographic regions. We said that they are the Western Plateau, the Central Lowlands, and the Eastern Highlands. We said that in general, the nature are different. In general, Western Plateau is very rocky and dry. Then we mentioned that the Central Lowlands are flat and rugged, and the Eastern Highlands have a variety of high and low areas, forests, and fertile farmlands. Okay, and also in addition, we have coastal lowlands, which are found around the continent, particularly in the north and in the east. Let's move to the most important landform in each region. What are the most important landforms in the Western Plateau? The most important landforms in the Western Plateau. Okay, Mahi, go ahead. Mahi, yes,
Magdalene Mountain Ranges.
yes, huh? Please can you repeat because your internet is a little bit. You said
Magdalene Mountain Ranges.
yes, we have in the Western Plateau, we have, it actually it makes half of Australia. It has the plateau is very rocky with water with few water sources, as Ahmed mentioned. You said that the most important physical features there is the McDonnell Mountain Ranges. Only the McDonnell. Adam Sadat.
Miss
Yes, yeah, Farah,
Miss
go
Sally,
ahead.
and also Western Plateau. Also, it has interior highlands in the center.
Yes, thank you very much. It has interior highlands in the center. It has the McDonnell Mountain Ranges, and it has
A
the
rocky land.
Musgrave mountain ranges and the huge expanse of flat plateau. So these are the most important physical features or landform of the Western Plateau. Who can again tell me or describe the most important landform in the Western Plateau? Let's move back to someone else. Krish,
Yes, miss.
can you tell me the most important landform in the Western Plateau?
McDonald Landform.
The McDonald Mountain ranges. Hmm?
Sorry, McDonald Mountain Ranges and
Mhm. The Musgrave Mountain ranges
the yes.
and the interior highlands.
Okay.
Thank you. Muhammad Yasser, can you repeat them, please?
Yes, miss.
Can you tell me about the landforms again?
The Western Plateau.
Yes.
It's and McDonald Rocky
Mm-hmm.
and the Central Lowlands
Mm-hmm.
and the Eastern Highlands.
What,
Landforms.
what landforms, ya Muhammad? You said the McDonald Mountain ranges and also
Yeah.
the Musgrave Mountain ranges. Huh? What
Yeah.
else? We have the interior highlands in the middle, and we have a huge expanse of flat plateau. These are the main landforms there.
Sorry, I got confused between the last lesson. Sorry, miss.
Okay, no problem. Thank you, Muhammad. Ritaj, Ritaj,
Yes, miss.
please repeat them again. The main landform there.
The interior highlands in the
Hmm?
center,
Hmm?
the Musgrave and the McDonald mountain ranges.
Thank you very much. What about the central lowlands? What about the central lowlands? Who can tell me what's very important or what are the most landform or what's in an important thing happened there? Let's see. Okay, I have Hannah Hani, go ahead. Hannah Hani,
Yes, miss. Yes.
go ahead.
Uh,
Tell
the,
me about central lowlands.
the central lowlands have a dry region.
Mm-hmm.
They have, although they have rivers and they have a strong system of rivers.
Mm.
The region is a desert
Mm.
and it is kind of isolated.
It is kind of isolated. Thank you, Ritesh, very much. Yeah, Hannah, sorry very much. The central lowlands are actually rough, dry region, although it has a system of rivers run through the rugged land, but much of the region is a desert. It has also the most rural and isolated parts of the central lowlands, which are commonly called the Outback. What's meant by the Outback? What's meant by the Outback? Jana Guda? Jana Guda.
Yes.
What's meant by the Outback?
It means like a deserted place or
Hmm?
a very dry place and
Yes.
isolated.
Thank you very much. It's actually the most rural and isolated parts of Australia's central lowlands. We call it the outback. The outback is actually the most rural and the most isolated Australia's lowland. So as we can see from what we're reading, that Australia has a dry climate. It has a very little sources of water, and at the same time, it has rugged or rocky nature, has mountain ranges. Okay, so it's hard to survive there. Survival is a challenge for both humans and the animals. Why? Why survival is considered a challenge for humans and the animals in the outback, especially? Who can answer this question, Hannah Yasser?
Because strong winds cause the harsh dust and it causes storms in the desert plains and in many parts of the outback. Also, like it's a desert, so like water is very hard to find.
Yes.
They like most of them die out of thirst. Um, and uh, and to get like the water, they must dig wells deep into the sun-baked earth.
Thank
They
you
they
very
must like they must dig for water in the like under the land itself to find water, but they might like not always they will find water, so it's hard because like they can't allocate the location of the water exactly.
Thank you very much. Thank you,
Thank
Hannah.
you.
So, guys, we said again that survival in the outback is a challenge for both humans and animals. And Hannah has explained it very well. Who can repeat the answer? Abdurrahman Khalid, why we consider survival in both in the outback is very hard.
Because it's a dry region
Hmm?
and it's deserted.
Means like isolated. But what about water sources? What about the wind?
There is strong winds
Yes.
and dust storms,
Hmm?
and the water is rare and difficult to find.
Thank you very much, Abdurrahman. Actually, Abdurrahman said again that survival is a challenge for both human and animals because in the outback we have strong winds which cause harsh dust storms across the desert plains. Also, in many parts of the outback, water is difficult to be found. So, what the solution to find water was to dig under the ground, dig wells into the sun-baked earth. Let's move to the second part. In Australia, we have one of Australia's most fascinating landform found in the central lowland. What is Australia's most fascinating landform? Who can tell me what is Australia's most fascinating landform? Dubulina?
The monolith.
The monolith, yes, thank you. Who can divide what's a monolith? Thank you, Dubulina. Ritage?
It is a massive solid stone.
Yes. As you can see here in the picture, I will show you the picture. This is the monolith. Monolith is actually a massive solid stone. Anyone has an idea about the meaning of the word mono? What does it mean, the word mono? Let me know. Okay, Adam Sadat.
Miss, what is the question again?
The meaning of the word mono.
Mono, one in Latin language.
Yes, in Latin language, mono means one. So the monolith means the only one. Actually, it's the only, or it means that it stands alone. As you can see here in the picture, this is the monolith. It's actually a massive solid stone which stands alone. Sometimes it measures like 1,100 feet tall, and actually it's long, or it stands alone and on the desolate plain. The amazing monolith has two names. Many Australians know as. What are the two names? Who can tell me the two names of the monolith?
I can say this.
Let's go ahead.
The first name is Ayers Rock.
Yes.
Australians call it Ayers Rock, and also
We have another
the
name.
Uluru. The
Yes,
Uluru.
the Alaro. Yes, the Alaro.
The Aloro.
Yes. Who called it the Alaro? Who can tell me who called it the Alaro? Bomika?
I can say this.
Miss.
Yes. Who called it the Aloro? Laura?
First Australians that lived in Australia. The first people who lived in Australia.
first people who lived in Australia, which we call them the Aboriginal people. We call them the Aboriginal people. They called it the Oloro, okay? Why they called it this? Because it's scary to many Aboriginal people. Who can describe these Oloros? Who can describe these Oloros? Jana Gouda?
Yes, miss.
Can you describe these Oloros?
This is the huge rock that
Oloros are inside the monoliths. They have like small.
I don't know.
Miss, I
Okay.
can describe them.
Okay. Magdi,
Yes, miss.
can you describe the Oloros? Or can you give us a brief description about the monolith?
The what?
The monoliths or the Oloros, can you describe them? What does it have inside? Why it is very important to the Aboriginal people?
It's like a large stone or rock,
Mhm. And it has,
like a mountain.
actually, it's not very big like a mountain. It's isolated. We said it's very isolated. It stands alone, and we call it we can call it the Oloros. Why the Aboriginal people called it the Oloros? Why it is very important to the Aboriginal people? Magdi, listen
Miss
to
Sally,
yes.
Miss Hanahani is telling you, can you let her enter because her network is bad and she left. Can you
Okay.
let her enter?
I just let her in.
Okay.
Okay, Laura, can you tell me why do we call it this name?
Because too many people it's scared to the Aboriginal people,
Hmm?
and there are small caves that's inside the monolith, and inside there's paintings and carvings.
Thank you very much. Yes, actually, it has a lot of Aboriginal paintings and carvings, and it's considered an official World Heritage Site, which located in a protected national park. So the monolith is the only one there. It's a massive solid stone. It actually considered scared by the Aboriginal people. It has other two names. It's named the Aloro or the Iris Rock. It's called by the Australian, the Iris Rock, and it's called by the Aboriginal people, the Eloro, because it is contain ancient Aboriginal paintings, carvings, and now it is considered an official World Heritage Site, which is located in a protected national park. Let's move to one of the most spectacular and the most complex ecosystem on Earth. Actually, it's located in the ocean waters in Australian northeastern shore. Who can tell me the most spectacular or the most complex ecosystem there? Okay, I have,
Miss, what are you? What is the question? Can you say again?
again, I will say it again. Now we're moving to one of the most spectacular or the most complex ecosystem on Earth there. Okay,
Yes.
it's located in water. What do we call it? Farah, you
The
want to answer?
coral reef.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
What's
The
meant
coral
by
reef.
the coral reefs? Or it is actually not the coral reefs, the Great Barrier of Reef. The Great Barrier of Reef. Who can define a coral reef?
I can, miss.
Go ahead.
It's a huge and a giant community of marine animals called corals.
Yes, thank you very much. Here, as you can see, guys, on the picture, here, this is the Great Barrier Reef. Here, okay? It's actually, as Farah mentioned, the Great Barrier Reef is made of smaller coral reefs. What's meant by coral reefs? She said a giant community of marine animals that are called corals. Okay? You can
Study.
see, yes?
If you call my name, sorry, my internet has a problem, so I fixed it. So the Zoom kicked me out.
No problem. I noticed and I let you in. No problem, Yusuf. So the Great Barrier is made of nearly like 3,000 smaller coral reefs extending for more than 1,250 miles. These reefs were formed over millions of years. How was these reefs formed? They were formed in millions of years, but how? Hannah Hani?
Yes, Miss, can you say the question again?
Again, we said that the Great Barrier is made of nearly like 3,000 smaller coral reefs. These coral reefs have been formed in millions of years, but can you tell me how?
When the coral grew and lived, and then they died, the hard skeletons built layers that this was the corals.
Yes. Again, who can repeat the answer, please? Thank you, Hannah.
Welcome.
Mihad? Mihad, can you tell me the reason behind the Great Barrier Reef was made? Is it natural or artificial at the beginning?
When corals died and their bones built layer upon layer.
So the Great Barrier is made of nearly like 3,000 smaller coral reefs extending for more than 1,250 miles. These reefs were formed over millions of years by natural actions of biosphere. Okay, so this is at the beginning, it's a natural action of biosphere. As coral left, grew, and died, their hard skeleton built layer upon layer, forming large underwater formation called reefs. Okay. Let's move to what about the waterways in Australia? Because the session is about to end. Who can elaborate about the waterways in Australia? Do we have certain waterways? Hannah Yasser?
Waterways in Australia.
Yes, please.
Okay. They mainly depend on rivers because like they lack rain. There are a few large rivers that like across all the land because Australia is one big island, or as we count it as a continent. The most important, there are important like the Murray and the Darling River system that flows through a dry basin in southeastern Australia, and there are many rivers in the Murray-Darling system that brings so much water to the area that the land is green and fertile, although there it lacks rain.
Thank you very much. So we said, as Hannah mentioned, and as we said during the session, that Australia has a dry climate and it has a lack of rain, which means that large rivers flow across the land, but Australia's largest river flow from the Eastern Mountains. The most important in the Murray-Darling River system. This is the most important river, the Murray-Darling River system. It flows through a dry basin in the southeastern Australia, but actually it gives us a fertile soil for farming. But many of Australia's people plants and the animals depend on actually what kind of source or what source of water they depend on. This is the last question. If we have only like very slow system or very limited system of rivers, they depend on what in their water source for planting. Laura?
Yes.
As Hannah mentioned that we have only very small, not yani large system of rivers. We have only like the one river is the Murray-Darling River system, and most of the area is dry. So what about Australia's people? What do they depend on in order to have farming and to have source of water?
Depend on the underground aquifers for the water.
Thank you very much. Actually, they depend on the underground aquifers for their water. That's it today. The last thing I will say today, please prepare the next part of the lesson. Next time, inshallah, I will be revising the landform and the waterways of Australia at the beginning. Then I will start with the landform and the waterways with New Zealand. Okay, so please prepare this part. It will be your textbook page 735 and 736. Okay, the landform and the
Okay,
bodies
miss.
of water of New Zealand, because we're going to have like a comparison between Australia and New Zealand tomorrow. Be prepared. Today I was very generous, but tomorrow I won't be. Actually, we have a session on Tuesday. Okay, anyone want to ask any question?
Yes, Miss Sally, I have a question.
Go ahead, يا فرح.
Miss, هو the chapter of